Characterization Laboratory at Physicians and Surgeons Hospital, Midland, Texas, USA. Sir has a vast experience in various interventional procedures and has given his tremendous contribution towards the public health services. With this, I request Sir to take over today's session on the topic preventive strategies for associated comorbidities in COVID-19. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Piyush Patel, and I'm a cardiologist, interventional cardiologist. I practice here in Anand. I've been practicing here for the last 6-7 years. Before that, I was in US, where I practiced for almost 40 years. We'll talk about prevention of COVID disease, COVID-19. Before we talk about prevention, we need to understand what this disease is, what does it do, what are the symptoms, how is it affecting the person, and also how is it being spread. COVID is now the biggest pandemic in the history, in last 100 years of history. It's the largest pandemic which has caused several million people being affected with COVID and over 1 million deaths in the world. In India, also there are over 200, I think close to 200,000 deaths. It's still not crossed 200,000 deaths. But number one country that is US that has over 210,000 mortal deaths related to COVID-19. India is number two, and I think India being very competitive, it's going to proceed to number one pretty soon. And that is mainly because we have problems in India. I have lived in US. I am living in India right now for the last 6-7 years. So I know the difference. I know the issues very well. And Indian culture is different. US culture is different. US is number one right now. And I think the credit goes to the head of the country, that is Mr. Donald Trump, who has not paid much attention to COVID in US. He has been downplaying this disease in the country. And since the beginning, the first case was in US was in January or February of 2020, this year. And he has been downplaying this disease to start with. Initially, he said there is zero case in US. Then he said, well, there are only this many cases in US. So he has not recognized this as a threat to the country and to the world, as a matter of fact. This disease has caused so much economic damage to the world that we are not realizing right now, but within the next few years, it's going to be a catastrophe. It's going to be real catastrophe. Most of the companies will go bankrupt. In US, there are lots of big companies that have gone bankrupt, and they are never going to come back, because once the big company goes down, they will never get up again. We are all lucky.
Sorry for the interruption. There is some internet issue. I mean, sir will quickly join back.
Okay. Sorry about the interruption, technical error. So I was saying that one patient dying in a family, it causes the biggest socio-economic damage to the family. And we all know that prevention is better than cure, or prevention is better than treatment itself. So COVID is being spread by virus that originated in China, and it has spread all over the world. Uh, this disease is spread by respiratory system. The disease affects our nose and nasal pharynx, and the viruses goes beyond the vocal cord, and they multiply over there. Then it progresses to the lungs, and it causes severe lung damage. Most of the patients who acquire this COVID infection are not symptomatic. So they are called asymptomatic patients because their immunity is so strong and they don't develop symptoms because their immunity fights with these viruses. But some unfortunate patients do experience symptoms. So out of 100 patients, 70% are asymptomatic, even maybe more, but 60 to 70% are asymptomatic. Asymptomatic means they don't have any symptom whatsoever. If that person comes in your contact, you will never know that that patient had virus. But if that person coughs or sneezes, or even sometimes simple talks, when we talk, we spit out sometimes micro particles of our sputum or our saliva, and that contains these viruses. When the opposite person inhales that, those people develop infection. Now, if we expose, say, if I have COVID infection and I'm asymptomatic, I don't know I have COVID. I come in contact with a lot of people, and then I start hugging them and kissing them and being together and chit chatting. And sometimes I cough or sneeze or whatever happens. The person sitting next to me gets infection. Now this particles, they travel almost up to 6 feet. So if I'm sitting at a distance of say 6 feet from the next person, then it is very unlikely that that person will get particles in his inhalation. The other way a person can get this infection is, say if I cough and I have those microparticles spit out from my lungs and they are on a table or on a computer keypad or on a bathroom knob, it's going to stay there alive for a few hours, 2 to 4 hours. Those micro viruses, they're going to stay alive. And when I touch them, or somebody else touches their area, say tabletop or wherever, computer keyboard, and then they don't realize that they have this viruses on their fingertips. Now they put their fingertips in their nose or in their throat or in their ear, they start getting infected. So this is a enemy that we don't see, but it is the biggest enemy in the world today. I think the threat to the population is so much that without taking proper preventive care, more patients or more people are going to die. So who are going to die? Most of the patients who are very elderly, like me, I'm 70 plus. People who are aged, more than say 60 plus, they are at a higher risk of acquiring this infection because their immunity is down. To fight any infection from in our body, we need immunity. Our immunity has to be strong. And if immunity is down, then we are going to get that infection. The younger the person, the higher the immunity, the higher the fighting power. They have much more strength to fight it. People who have diabetes, people who have high blood pressure, people who have who are morbidly obese, those are the people who are at a very high risk of acquiring this. So we have to make sure that those patients are protected from exposure to these viruses. And people, elderly people who are at a risk should avoid exposure. How do we avoid exposure? Most of us who are elderly need to stay at home. No unnecessary travel, no unnecessary getting out of the house. When you get out of the house, you need to make sure that you just go out only for very absolutely essential services. Otherwise, you are at the risk of acquiring this disease. When you go out, you don't know who you are being exposed to. And the major problem is because there are so many asymptomatic patients who we don't know they're ill. So that those patients are the biggest danger. WHO, World Health Organization, has recommended several steps to take. And their number one step is wash hands. Frequent washing of hands is very, 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 very important. We don't know how many times we touch what. If I think of my daily routine from morning till night, how many things I touch. Wake up, I touch bathroom knobs, I touch the faucet knob, I touch the car door, I touch the steering wheel. I mean, so many things that we touch are potential for transmission of this disease. Uh, so washing hands frequently, I would recommend washing hands every 1 hour to make sure that you're not carrying those organisms in your hands. Number two is after you wash your hands, but don't start putting your fingers in your mouth or ears or nose, because you don't know exactly what is on your finger and what is going to get into your body. So don't touch your face, any part of your face. That is one good prevention, because the the viruses are going to need your hands to get into your ears. Otherwise, they are not going to get in if you are not exposed directly to a patient or a patient who is carrying the disease. So frequent washing of hands. How do you wash it? Wash it for at least 20 seconds. Use at least 20 seconds to wash your hands. And hand washing is with soap and water. Now, you don't need a special soap to wash your hands. You can wash with any water. You don't need Dettol soap or any regular soap will do. But you have to wash with soap and water. If you don't have soap, at least wash it with water. I mean, some places you may not have soap, but at least wash it with water. If you don't have soap or water, then there are hand sanitizers. You can use them. Hand sanitizers have to be having 60% alcohol in it, ethanol or alcohol, whatever you call it. It should be at least 60% alcohol in it, in the sanitizer. I have seen some of the shop owners adding water to the sanitizer and then spray it in your hands. That's no good. It's not going to do any good. That is a bad practice, and that gives you a false sense of security that you're sanitized now. That is not sanitization. Wearing mask. Wearing mask is the most important step. You know what happened to Donald Trump? He was against wearing mask. I mean, he was arrogantly against wearing mask. He was telling people you don't need a mask. And now he's in a hospital with COVID. He was making fun of his opponent, Mr. Biden, Vice President Biden. They are contesting for presidency now. He was making fun of him 2 days ago. And now he's a victim of this thing. At least we should take this lesson. It's a very important lesson that viruses are not going to discriminate, even if you're a president or you are a poor man on the street. Virus is going to get you. If you give them a chance, the viruses are going to get you. So don't give a chance to these viruses to enter your body. And if you wear a mask, most of the people will be protected. Now, what mask? That is important. Ideal mask should be N95. That means it prevents 95% of the organisms from entering into your nose or mouth. But any mask would do. Some people make mask at home, and that's fine. I would recommend that mask should have 2 layers of cotton. Cotton mask is fine because it can absorb the moisture. It can absorb the water part of the particles that are floating around, and it will not let it go through. 2 layers I'm saying is, one is for your protection, another is for public protection, because your protection is from the outer layer, public protection is from ear layer. Your organisms don't get into other people. We have to be careful that we protect ourselves, but we are protecting at the same time so many other people around us. We are one person, but there may be 50 people around us. And you see what has happened in US. President Trump gave a big gathering in Rose Garden. I think that was last week sometimes. And now I think there are about 8 or 10 people turned out positive for coronavirus. And that is sad. And that's because they didn't put on the mask. Neither the president nor the audience. They wanted to show that they are so brave and strong and nothing is going to happen to them. And this is, corona is just a hoax. It's not hoax. It's a real thing. We have seen people die, and we couldn't do anything about it. Nothing. There is no 100% cure for this disease. Even when vaccine comes in, I don't know if vaccine is going to be available soon. In Western countries, they say it's going to be available sometimes mid-March next year. I hope it is available sooner, but to vaccinate this whole world is going to take 2 years. So vaccination, yes, it is a good thing to happen, but we have to take care of ourselves, because if we get corona, we are going to die. It is a lethal disease. It will kill us. So major thing is wearing a mask. I cannot emphasize that more. I would just say, wear the damn mask. It is important. I keep my mask here. I have it. I'm just using it right. I'm not using it right now because I'm giving a talk, and I'm all alone here. So nobody is very close to me. Everybody is almost 6 feet away. Washing hands, keeping good distance. If you have a member in your family who has symptoms, make sure they see a doctor or they call the doctor. You know, some doctors are reluctant to see patients with suspected COVID. That's fine. You can call them and ask for guidance, what they tell you to do. Because nowadays, this disease can be diagnosed early. And the sooner you diagnose, the better treatment is there. More than that, you are preventing other people from getting sick. One patient can infect 100 patients. And like, I think India has passed almost 1 lakh of deaths every day. And that's a lot of patients dying. There is no treatment right now. That is the sad part of it. There are some treatment that they say may help, but in reality, there is not much treatment. And I see people die. They go on ventilator. The expenses are so high. Each hospital, they charge like 18,000, to 20,000 per day, and some hospitals even charge 1 lakh per day. I had a friend who went to a hospital in Ahmedabad and he spent 20 lakhs for corona. So it's an expensive disease, it's a lethal disease, and if we don't prevent it, we are going to have a problem. If you guys have any question, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Moving ahead, I would like to give this opportunity to the participants if they have any queries. The floor is open for the discussion.
Looks like everybody knows now.
Sir, actually, I have one question.
Okay.
What are the challenges and barriers in dealing with a syndrome patient?
Syndrome?
Syndrome patients, those patients who suffer with the syndrome disease.
I could hear her.
Sir, like we say this, the disease condition, especially like HIV, AIDS. So it's AIDS is a syndrome. So what are certain challenges and barriers, especially in dealing with the patients who suffer with the syndrome diseases?
Challenges. What are the challenges of treatment or prevention? Both.
Both.
The main challenge is identifying the patients, identifying the disease. And if a patient doesn't go to a healthcare provider or doesn't, and it is very common here in India. Like I had a patient who came with this symptom, and I told him to get a HRCT, high resolution CT scan. And he says, "What if I have COVID? I don't want people to know I have COVID." So there is a stigma. That is the biggest challenge that we are facing. People who really have COVID, they want to hide it because they think they will be boycotted in the society. They will carry a stigma. Nobody, I came from, in month of March, I went to Australia. And when I came back, I was quarantined for 14 days in my own house. Now, there was a rumor in the society that Dr. Patel has COVID. And my driver even would not want to come to see me or take me somewhere. So that is the biggest stigma. People don't understand the disease and don't understand the consequences, what is happening. The other stigma is don't go to the doctor. In Gujarati, they say, "Doctor Vem Naki Desita." So they don't go to the doctor for even for any serious illness. Forget about COVID. And once you tell the patient that you might have COVID, they shy away from you. They never go to get the test done. They straight away go home, and then they come back with very severe fulminant disease. So those are some of the challenges. Like any other disease like HIV, there are challenges there too. But stigma is the biggest challenge that we have to overcome. The other challenge is educating people. People don't want to understand that they have to wear a mask. When I tell them to wear a mask, when they come to see me, they come to see me like this. This is how they're wearing the mask. I said, "You're not covering I don't need you to cover your beard. I want you to cover your whole thing like that." Then they come like this. So educating people is very, very hard. That is one thing. The second thing is I see these patients who are not following the rules of skipping 6 feet distance, even at the airport. I mean, people rush and just stick to each other as if the flight is going to run away. They don't want to keep a distance. Stay away from me at least 2 feet. But they are so close. Sometimes I feel humiliated. So that is another thing. Is people education is very important. I see about 15 people sitting in rickshaw today. 15. And none of them wearing a mask. And some of them are wearing a mask on their beard or on their neck or wherever. When the police comes to see them, they put it on. I mean, it is not for the police. We don't want to show it to the police that we are wearing a mask. We are doing, it is our civic duty.
It's right.
It is our own duty to take care of this epidemic and pandemic, because if we don't take care of it, nobody else will. That is another thing. People don't want to realize that they have a problem, and we do have a problem. They spit everywhere. I mean, even all the staircases in the big building are painted so red with spit. That's so bad. And then the police give them 500 rupees ticket. They give 200 to the police, so they save 300. I mean, bribery. I mean, I can keep on going. It is basic society structure is so bad here. Corruption is so bad. We are supposed to do certain things. We don't do it. And we are teaching our children to follow the same thing. So society is never going to improve unless we do it. It's not going to improve.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All
So
right.
there is one more question, that is, what extra care should be taken with patients who have especially this cardiovascular disorders? So patients who are having this cardiovascular disorders, what extra care they need to take in order to prevent themselves from getting the infection? And
Okay.
if at all, if they get the infection, what aftercare also need to be taken, like care after once they have like infected with the virus?
Okay. This COVID virus has a tendency to cause intravascular clotting, blood clot. What happens is they have microvascular clotting, the viruses get into the vessels and create blood clots. To be honest with you, I have seen more heart attacks during this COVID epidemic and pandemic, more heart attacks than I have seen before in my life. And most of those heart attacks that I have seen are from people who live in overcrowded situations, overcrowded communities. And I attribute this to intravascular blood clots. So if patients are known to have heart disease, they should be taking their medication, especially the blood thinners. There are 2 or 3 different types of blood thinners that we put cardiac patient on, and they are called antiplatelet drugs, aspirin, and some other 2 or 3 different medications that are available. So those patients are on that. They should continue taking this medication. If they have high blood pressure, they should continue controlling their blood pressure. And what has happened is I had patients, so many patients which I treated with putting stents in their arteries. Now this patient needed to continue taking their blood thinning medication. And this is the real thing. I'm telling you what happens. Before March, I did several angioplasties. And this patient need to be taking their blood thinner for a whole year and a half, at least, after the procedure. During this lockdown situation,
Once again, sorry for the interruption. Sir will get back soon because of some technical error.
okay. Sorry about that again. So this patient was coming with his son on a motorbike. He was stopped by the police. Why you are going double savari? You should. He was beaten up. Patient was literally beaten up, and they took his bike and they told him to go walking. So patient had to walk almost 2 kilometers to come to my office. Heart condition patient. When he came to my office, he actually had developed a heart attack. Now, this is real bad. So patients who are on their medication, they need to continue taking their medication. It's a must. That is the biggest challenge that I am facing right now, is people need to stick to their medication and need to go to see the doctors and get their medicine. It's very, very important because corona does affect cardiovascular system. Does affect cardiovascular system. I had a 17 or 18-year-old patient came with a massive blood clots in his lung. Fortunately, he survived. Fortunately, we diagnosed him and he did very well. And he's still on blood thinner now. So cardiovascular system is the cause of most of the deaths. I mean, when the heart stops, patient dies. Basically, that's how the patient ends up with dying. And intravascular clotting is the cause of it. Any other question?
Yes. Yes, so one more we have, that is hydrochloroquine safe in treating COVID-19 cases with cardiac diseases?
What is the question? Can you please repeat?
Like, is hydrochloroquine is safe in treating the patients who have actually the cardiac diseases?
Chloroquine.
Yeah.
I think you should stay away from chloroquine. Chloroquine itself, even if you don't have heart disease, chloroquine can give you heart disease. What happens is a chloroquine does affect what we call on a ECG a QT interval. On ECG, there is PQRST. Those are the 4, 5, 6 waves, PQRST. And what chloroquine does, it increases the interval, QT interval, prolongs the QT interval, that predisposes them for a malignant cardiac arrhythmia. I have seen patients dying from chloroquine because of this bad arrhythmia. So, and patient did not even have heart disease. So chloroquine, don't take them. It is not proved medicine. And especially if you have a heart disease, it's a no. Don't take it. If somebody gives you free, they are giving you poison. Don't take it.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
All right.
So one more.
Okay.
Which comorbidities are actually considered quite dangerous when like keeping in mind COVID-19?
Okay. Comorbidities are number one. One is obesity. Patient who are overweight. What happens to why obesity is because when a person is obese, their lung capacity goes down. Their lung expansion doesn't occur as it should. So their pulmonary function, if you do them, their vital capacity is very low. And they cannot inhale and exhale forcefully. So if a person is morbidly obese or even grossly obese, then that is number one risk. The other comorbidity is diabetes. When a person has diabetes, I mean, it's common people know this. A diabetic છે સાહેબ એમને ઓપરેશન નહીં કરવાનું કારણ કે ફાટી જશે. So, because of diabetes, a person has low immunity, very low immunity. People who have acquired immune deficiency, they are also at increased risk. People with heart failure, those people whose heart function is low, their ejection fraction is low, they develop cerebral pulmonary congestion and they're prone to infection. These viruses and bacteria, they like rich medium to sit and multiply. And when the lungs are full of all your rich fluid, I mean, they enjoy that. So people who have heart failures, people who have pre-existing heart attacks, their cardiac function is low, they are especially at risk. People who have history of tuberculosis, even smokers are at high risk because their their pulmonary linings are all burnt out, and they are more exposed to this disease. They are at a higher risk. High blood pressure patients are at high risk. So these are the basic patients who we have to watch them, and we have to instruct them how to take care of themselves.
Sir, can you please like tell us the importance of vitamin C and zinc, the importance of this both ingredients, especially in terms of COVID-19?
All this vitamin C, this is strictly my opinion. They don't do much. They don't do as good as washing your hands, wearing a mask, and keeping a safe distance does. You can drink vitamin all you want. Your body is not going to, some of the vitamins your body is not going to store them. They're going to go out in your urine next day. So, I mean, if you are healthy, you're eating healthy diet, healthy food, you don't need all those extra vitamin C and D and E and all that nonsense. I mean, if you eat good, if you live healthy, wash your hands, stay away from people, wear masks, there's nothing to beat that. Some of the things like, people say, "Oh, this is will boost your immunity and this will do this." Come on, don't give me that nonsense. Because if it does that, then everybody will take that and not get infected.
Yes.
So I don't recommend. I mean, if you want to take them, fine. It doesn't hurt you, but I don't think it prevents you from having that disease.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Sir, I also want to know what is the like people who are actually suffering with already a respiratory condition, let's say, for example, tuberculosis. So, like client who are actually suffering with the tuberculosis, what more effect could COVID-19 can actually add on it? What
Okay.
other like precautions or what, especially on the treatment aspect, and also like what other precautions need to be taken?
Okay. Say patient has pulmonary TB. Now, TB can affect any part of the body. It can affect the brain. It can affect your lungs. It can affect your eyes, lips, wherever TB can go and live. Even it can go into your intestines. So most of the patients have TB in their lungs, and they usually TB affects mostly upper lungs, upper lung fits. Now, these people who have TB, their immunity is so low. That is the first reason they got TB to start with. So these patients are immunocompromised to start with. They need to continue their TB anti-TB medication. It's a must. They need to, as far as prevention, not getting exposed to patients who have other illnesses. Don't go out of your house. I would say just lock the house, stay inside the house, get out only and only if you have to, if you have active tuberculosis. Now, there are patients who are convalescing from TB, like they had 6 months ago. They are also at an increased risk because they now are immunocompromised. They are people who have low immunity, and they should watch and make sure that they are not exposed to people who have fever, people who are coughing around, and wear a mask. Mask is a must. Mask is 90% prevention. That they should not be exposed to any patient, any person who has or suspected to have COVID. Because so many people are asymptomatic. So you do not know who has COVID or who doesn't have COVID, who is carrying secret weapon and who is not. It's a weapon that is going to kill you.
Yes. Sir, also, what is the like? Is there any role of a client who is having vitamin D deficiency and also having a comorbidity? So, what are your views in this? A client who is already having a comorbidity, let's say hypertension or diabetes or obesity, and on top of that, he or she also have vitamin D deficiency. So, does that vitamin D deficiency play an added role in COVID-19?
Yes, vitamin D also can improve your immunity. If you are low on vitamin D, first of all, you should not be low on vitamin D. You know, you should get your level checked, and if your vitamin D level is low, we people in India think that, oh, we are exposed to the sun, so we get enough vitamin D and we don't need to get it checked. And that is another stigma. I mean, we have to get our body checked every 6 months or at least once in a year. Get a blood test. You know, give you a simple example. We have two-wheelers. I'm sure most of us have two-wheelers. So quite a few people have been four-wheelers. How often do we take it to the garage to check out? At least once or twice a year. And how much does it cost? It doesn't cost that much. But still we spend a lot of money and a lot of time after that. It is our most precious thing. But we forget that our body is more precious. I mean, there is no value for our body. I tell my patient, you give me your one finger, I'll give you 1 lakh rupees. So if you have 10 fingers, I'll give you 10 lakhs. Give me all 10. No, they cannot, they won't do it because our body is so important and they don't want to spend even 500 rupees to get some blood tests. So people people should not be deficient on anything if they take care of themselves and get checked. And if they are low on vitamin D helps build up your immunity also. So it is important that all these things be checked even before on a regular basis. In general, they should.
Yes. Sir, what are your views of regarding Ayurvedic this kada? Because like initially when COVID-19 came and everybody were more emphasizing on drinking this kada with different jadi booties and all, especially the Ayurvedic one. So what are your views? Can it actually, is it really helpful, like drinking early morning this Ayurvedic kada?
Well, I think it helps your head. It doesn't really do much good. Just imagine, India is the only Ayurvedic country in the whole world. Okay, and it is going to be number one country in the world for highest mortality. Now tell me if it is making any difference. Why, if everybody drinks this kava or whatever they call it, I mean, there should not be this disease in this country. I mean, initially when when COVID came in, America got it in, I think, February or March, and we got it a little late. And we were all bragging that, see, we are so healthy. We are so healthy. It's not Ayurvedic or anything. It just took its time to come to India. It was the travel time. It was not because we had high immunity. And I don't think anything helps. This virus is very notorious, very, very, very bad virus. It is the worst virus in the world. So, and again, I am not that experienced in Ayurvedic medicine. So it is hard for me to even say anything against it. But my general analysis is, if we were so great, I think there is more Ayurvedic medicine being done in Gujarat. And I think at one point in time, Gujarat was the highest, there were highest number of COVID patients in Gujarat. So that much I can tell you.
Yes, sir. In this like same line, also, what is like is Bitadin gargle also? Is it useful?
Is what, gargle?
Bitadin gargle.
Betadine gargle. I think that is good. Gargles is always good. Even if you don't have any problem, gargling is always good. The good old advice we used to give to the patients before is, if you have sore throat, do salt water gargle. Now we have betadine, so we can do betadine gargling, and that is okay. That is good thing to. It will keep you healthy, not necessarily prevent you from having the coronavirus itself, but it will keep you healthy.
Sir, what are your views on this deep breathing exercises? Like, will it really help the COVID-19 clients to recover faster if they do so?
Again, virus don't discriminate. Deep breathing exercise, viruses don't know if you're doing deep breathing exercise or not. Deep breathing exercises and even general physical exercises, those are good exercising to build up your stamina, to build up your immunity. So any form of exercise, if you're doing, it is overall good for your well-being. Forget about COVID. It may or may not help you to prevent you from having COVID, but it is going to keep you in a good health. Breathing exercises, Anulom Vilom or Kapal Bhati, whatever we are all doing, we have to keep on doing it. That's not a problem at all.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right.
Sir, what are again your views regarding the clients who have comorbidities related to renal system? Because here the renal system will be in a compromised state. So
Yes.
how about their treatment aspect if a client who already have a renal system disease, and if that particular client get the COVID-19?
Yes. People who have renal disease, like people who have end-stage renal disease, or we call it a CKD, chronic kidney disease, they have elevated creatinine and they undergo dialysis. They are at an increased risk. Absolutely right. They are at an increased risk because, again, kidney is the one that throws out your toxins from your body, and you are accumulating all those toxins in your body. So your body is busy fighting those toxins, and your immunity is being used up. Your fighting capacity is being used up to fight your own system or your own poisoning. And on top of that, if you get any infection, this is basically a viral infection. It's infectious disease, and it is going to. They are all opportunistic. They are going to go and survive on people who have low immunity. That's why children are protected from it. Most of the children. Now, it does happen in younger kids. It can happen, and younger kids can die from COVID. But their immunity is so high, very, very high immunity. So they have higher capacity to fight this kind of infection.
Thank you, sir. Sir, according to you, is this RT-PCR is considered a reliable test for COVID-19?
See, there are so many tests for COVID-19, and most of the tests have what we call false positive and false negative. And even if the test comes out positive, that doesn't mean you have a disease. That means you can be a carrier, or it may be a just false positive test, and you may not even have the disease. So every test has its sensitivity and specificity. If a test is, say, if a test is positive and the chances that that person has a disease, that means its specificity is high. Now, when the sensitivity is high, that means there are more false positive. If test is very sensitive, that means sensitivity is so high that there are several false positive tests. So I rather go with more specific tests than more sensitive tests.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Sir, one more last question. Already the clients who are on this steroids therapy, so since their immunity will be low, but then again, we were seeing in the news that Oxford University were claiming this steroid therapy is actually good in treating this ventilated clients. So, but already who are, let's say, anybody who is suffering with autoimmune disease, and because of that, they are on steroid therapy. So, what again the treatment aspect, how it could differ, or what again precautions need to be taken care for those clients?
Okay, people who see steroid don't help people who have mild to moderate disease. It helps only and only patients who are severely ill, their disease is bad. They are on ventilator basically. So giving steroid therapy to patients in very early stage, it probably can hurt them than help them. So this steroid therapy and recommendation that has come out, it is only for patients who have advanced problem, whose lungs, who are on ventilator dependent or BiPAP dependent or oxygen dependent. Those are the patients it's going to help them. Now there are some people who are already on steroid therapy. If they are already taking steroid therapy and they develop this disease, but if they are moderate, if they are a mild to moderate disease, you still don't up their therapy. Just continue with their current therapy, what they're taking. Only if they get severe, then you start them on IV steroid therapy. Because on a chronic basis, they are usually taking oral steroids.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your wonderful session. Indeed, it was a thought-provoking session.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, Dr. Piyush, I have a very common question which comes to mind, that how long this corona keep impact on heart after even the recovery of patient? Because I was looking out some of the researches and they said that till 76 days after recovery, the corona remains in the heart and that keep impacting the heart layer. Especially the myocarditis is a common inflammation which giving a little bad result with the COVID-19 recovery.
Yes, COVID can stay in the body for up to even 90 days.
Yeah, recently, I think yesterday there was a news that 90 days it can remain in the body.
Yeah.
Especially in the heart, how long it will?
In the heart, it is difficult to say, but once the patient develops myocarditis and they develop cardiomyopathy, that means their heart muscle is weak. It's basically dead. The muscle is basically gone, and now only fibrous part of the heart is left. So it causes a permanent damage to the heart muscle, and there is basically no treatment for that other than heart transplant. And they probably stay there forever. I think we need to do some research and some autopsy studies to see if the viruses are still alive in the lining of the myocardium. But those patients, once patient develops cardiomyopathy, it's a death notice. It's very, very bad unless we do a heart transplant on those patients. And I've seen a couple young patients dying from myocarditis and cardiomyopathy just recently.
In your beginning, when you were answering the questions, you said one thing, your observation, that in the last few months, we have seen number of cardiac arrest patients. Am I audible to you? Am I audible to you, sir? Am I audible to Glory? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. I think I lost connection with Patel, sir.
Yes, sir. I think so.
Okay, tell me now.
Yeah, I was asking you, you were sharing your observation that in last few months you have seen number of arrest patients or the heart attack patients.
Right.
So what was the incidence of their COVID positivity? Like they were positive or negative?
I think about 4 patients turned out to be positive, COVID positive patients.
Okay.
But I had to take care of them because they come to me
Exactly
with heart symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And then after treating their heart attack, then we say, okay, we suspect you might have COVID. So we send them for COVID test and it has come out positive. So out of 10, so I would say about 40% patient would be positive for COVID.
What was the roughly age of them? Average age of those 40%?
Average age was 40, 45, yeah.
Very sad.
Young people. And they were all smokers.
Okay.
All smokers. So it's an added risk factor. Smoking is a risk factor.
Yes, it is. It is. Can you suggest some research topic to our nursing students and faculties about COVID and heart?
Come again, please.
Can you suggest some of the research studies to our faculties?
Research
COVID
studies.
and
Well, I have a
heart.
bunch of them in my office. I'll be happy to email them to you.
Sure, please.
I'll email those links.
Because you are practicing, so you might have come across with so many issues.
Yes.
I think that we can answer through research.
Sure. I'll send you some of those.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Yes, glory to over to you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, we have one last question from the participant. I mean, she have a question that her father actually got infected with the COVID-19 1 month before, and after that, the in the recovery phase, his actually father haven't recovered well, like since 1 month, and the symptoms are still. I mean, is he like have the sore throat and everything? So he's not been recovered like how he was, like his health was before. Also, her dad was also having a past history of tuberculosis. So, like, what could you suggest in this scenario?
I think recovery from COVID is in some patients is really long. It takes 3 months, 4 months to, and some patients don't even recover for 6 months. So that is the longest history we have. We know. Some patients just don't recover at all. They have a long lasting disability effect. They just don't do well. And if their immunity is low, like people who have history of tuberculosis, I mean, sure, their immunity is low, and I think the time is the only treatment for them. Other than, there is no medication. If there were some medication, magic medicine, we can say take these pills and you will be okay. There is no such thing. It is just, and some patients do get reinfected. Even say you have COVID once, you can get reinfected in 2 months down the line. And there are several cases reported that they develop twice COVID. Now that is, it's difficult to explain, but the COVID has different strains and they do mutation. So once they get mutated, it's, they can reinfect you again. So sometimes they keep on getting reinfection and they get exposed to the source again and again, like asymptomatic patient keep on giving them infection again.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
COVID is not going away. We will have to live with it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
certainly that is the new normal.
Yeah. We have to live with it. We all will have to wear masks. Very important. I think mask will save us.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Indeed, it was a thoughtful and provoking session.
Okay.
Moving ahead, as we have come to the end of the session, I request Dr. Anil Sarma, sir, to share his thoughts on today's webinar.
I must say that such a wonderful session, and sir has been, you begin with your session in a very normal way. The basic informations which I think people have missed it because of thinking advanced about COVID and health. So you concentrated on the very basic information, and all raised questions were answered so well. Even the nutrient which you were saying about vitamin D and C, of course, yesterday's news, WHO have very much declared that D and C have no role in curing the COVID-19. So everything was in place, and so nicely you have answered all the questions. I hope every participant gains some knowledge from this session. So thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and remain with us and share your expertise. And we will be waiting of your email about research topics.
I will send you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Yes, Glory.
Bye.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts on this today's webinar. Next, I would like to announce about the next webinar on the topic, that is preventive strategies to COVID-19 in pregnancy. The time remains same, that is 3 to 4 p.m. Date would be 10 of October. And the speaker would be Dr. Shudha Reddy ma'am, that is Dean and Principal of Cayley Institute of Nursing Sciences. So lastly, I would like to make an important announcement that we have already shared the link of feedback in the chat box. So all of you are requested to go through the link and give your valuable feedback. Once you submit your feedback only, you will receive the e-certificate. So make sure that you actively fill your feedback, and within a short period of time it will be only activated. So you actively feed your this feedback, and so that you can receive your e-certificates on time. And for those who have attended the session through the YouTube mode, please scan the QR code to get the link of the feedback, which will be shared with you all in the end of the session. So with this, we thank you all for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you soon in the upcoming webinar. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.